Welcome to Terry TV. I am so glad that you are tuned in. I'm just like over the moon. I'm having so much fun being with you, and in particular, being able to share some of the amazing people that I've been meeting on my journey and allowing you to know who they are and learning from them and truly experiencing them. So before I tell you my guest's name, I'm going to tell you that the first time I met her, I don't know, year and a half ago, something like that, I remember there was a whole room full of women, and I was meeting a lot of women, and something about her captured my attention. I found her very charismatic, somewhat introverted, yet very charismatic at the same time, and I just felt like I wanted to get to know her. I didn't have a lot of time in that day. I just got the sense that this is somebody I really was going to enjoy. I got to experience her about a month later. And I remember at that time, she wasn't yet a phenomenal speaker, which she is now. She was moving on up as a speaker. And I got to sit and I got to listen to her. And I said to myself, this is a great speaker in the making because she has a message and she has a clear mission and she has a lot of passion. So hopefully I got you a little bit curious about who my guest is for you. I want to bring onto the show in just a moment Nicole Keeber, and I want to tell you that you're going to want to go wherever she's speaking. You're going to want to be part of her social media tribes because this is a woman who is a true entrepreneur. She delivers value, she is an integrity, and she is truly the money mindset expert. She's the go-to gal if you have any money mindset stuff, and believe me, I'm guessing you do. She's helped men and women all over the world not only reveal their blocks, because sometimes like, oh yeah, that's my thing, but also to release their blocks. And when you can do that, then you can not only let in money, you can let in abundance in all areas of your life. Nicole, my friend, thank you for being with us today on Terry TV.
I am so excited to be here. I just love you.
Well, I feel the same way, and I'm just so excited because, it's so interesting. A lot of the folks that have stopped by in Terry TV, they're amazing and they're awesome and they're teaching sales and business and marketing and all these great tools that business owners need. However, I'm a big believer that if you don't get the mindset right, none of those things are going to make a difference and that people are held back by money mindset. So what's your wording and description? What's money mindset mean to you?
Well, our mindset is a set of beliefs that we have about ourselves, about the world around us. And there's no topic more controversial than money, maybe one other I can think of. But so our beliefs about money get formed really early, and it creates our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around it, So when you think about money mindset, it is how you view the world, how you view your ability to earn money, and what you think about other people who have it or don't have it.
It's interesting because I analyzed this for myself. I've had several successful businesses, never really thought about it. When I started my consulting business 20-something years ago, I really started to think about it then because I had been attracting money easily and was looking at people who were struggling and listening to them. And I thought, wow, I'm very blessed that I have some difference in appreciation of money and in not being afraid of money and in feeling like money's just, to me, it's just a symbol, an exchange, a thank you for something. And I really did, even for myself, I started to work on it and to notice my beliefs. And I find that with all the clients I've worked with over the years, the ones that have those money blocks, the wrong money mindset, so to speak, no matter what I can share with them, they're just not going to be prosperous. Do you agree with that?
I do. I've found the difference between the people I know and have worked with who are successful easily and pretty quickly are the ones who have really either delved into their mindset and have shifted it, or were blessed to not have that paradigm running, within their mindset. And so you can give someone a million pieces of homework, 80 strategies, and a kick in the butt, but if their mindset is not in a place where they can really take that in and run with it because they have some kind of block that's unconscious to them, it's not going to make a difference. The strategy doesn't work without the ability for it to sink in. And that's where the block comes in.
So I want to share a client story and then ask for your advice here. I think this would help everybody. This client had difficulty with money, in fact, was homeless numerous times, and finally became successful, and money started to roll in, and the client couldn't spend the money fast enough to the point where I'm pretty sure that if he didn't change his money mindset, he would have been homeless again. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So if we have a uncomfortable relationship with money because maybe we haven't had it, if we get it all of a sudden pretty quickly, this is, speaks to people who win the lottery. Most of them don't keep it. There's a lack of inner worth that impacts that relationship with the money. So if you're feeling insecure that this money's not going to last, or maybe I'm not going to have everything I need, so I need to go out and spend it now, I need to get all the things, that person has money, but they don't have a healed relationship with money. So they're not going to hang on to it for many reasons. They don't feel worthy, or they're afraid of it, or just you name it. And so they need to heal the relationship with the money so that they can hang on to it.
That's excellent. Thank you. So if one of our viewers or many of our viewers are saying, okay, I don't know my money mindset. How do I figure it out? How do I begin to notice it? Can you give them some ideas?
Sure. And we all have emotion connected to money. Some of us, it's positive, affirming, and we feel very secure in it. And for some of us, it's not. And so the best way for you to figure that out is to begin to pay attention to your thoughts about money. What do I think about money when I pull it out of my wallet? What do I think about money when it's time for me to pay a bill? What is the dialogue running in my mind about money and its availability in my life? So that's the first place to start, is what is your language?
I love that. I love that. And I find that to be interesting also. I take notice of, all kinds of languages because I find people and humanity interesting. And I'll notice even my own money stories sometimes that just make me laugh. Like, for an example, there's something that we want to invest in my company, and it's $5,000. And my first thing was, could we afford that? And I kind of got a laugh because, yes, we can easily afford it. So where is that coming from? It's like, okay, where'd that story come from? What is that? And then I tell my team, we're going to go forward with this, and we're going to make a payment this week, and it's $5,000. And I get 3 different responses. One person is like, that's great, I'm so glad we can do it. Another person is like, that's a heck of a lot of money. And another person is, wow, I thought that was going to be like 25 grand. So we can begin to decipher these things. Now, let's say we recognize our stories. How do we begin to shift them, transform them, and change them?
So when we recognize them, then we need to be mindful and see where they show up. So when you are paying a bill, whatever the behavior is around that, are you paying it on time? Are you lagging? Are you resentful? How are you feeling about that? So being really mindful about your behavior around money helps you tap into what the thing is that you need to do to begin to shift it. And that's hugely important, is that mindfulness piece to help you move forward, because everyone can shift that mindset, but you must be mindful to do so.
I like that. So we have to be mindful first, right? So if somebody says, I've got some money issues and I want to shift them, I want to change them, do you have maybe a story or a case history, an example of a client that you've done this with so people can begin to see what that might be like?
I do. One that stands out in my mind that really showed me the power of the need to heal the relationship with money. And so if you don't mind, I'd like just to tell that really quickly.
Great.
So it was a client I was working with very early on, and anyone who knows with me knows I have a background in therapy, so I'm very deeply interested in the deeper story of things. And so this person had lived at a poverty level most of her life by choice, and at this point did not want to do that anymore, and she was trying to get to the root of why money was so evil to her. And when we were able to look back, she realized that at 7 years old, her father had left the family and had left her sister and her mother, pretty much destitute. And that little 7-year-old brain said, money's never going to be important to me because he picked it over us. And so the entirety of her, the thought, feelings, and her behaviors as an adult were pridely living towards poverty and not ever choosing money. She had jobs come to her, opportunities come to her, and she would always let them go because she was rebelling against money. And once she had this aha, man, she let that go fast, and she tripled her income and took a job that she loved and started getting paid for volunteer work that she was doing. So she was a rapid rise in her income and the money coming into her life because she shifted it and stopped letting the 7-year-old drive the bus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great story. That's a perfect example. I love it. I love it. I'm going to ask you a really deep question here, and I think you'll be okay with it. Would you be willing to share any stories that you have had or may have that are your own money mindset stories?
Of course. This is part of what I talk about is that, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I love poverty so much I got a master's degree in it. Mm-hmm. So I really, in choosing my career, I really feel like I took a vow of poverty without knowing it. And I listened to what everyone could say about, okay, this is how much a social worker will make. This is how much we'll pay you. And I never questioned it ever once. And when I realized that I had taken on this vow of being, in a poverty mindset, it shifted everything for me. And I was able to, not only triple my income from being a social worker, but to be in a business where I'm working for myself and, empowering other people to also look at their money story in a different way. So I like I said, I got a master's degree in poverty.
I absolutely love that. I find it interesting. I was talking to one of my young cousins the other day, and she said that she wanted to be a dietitian. And I said, you might want to look at something like a naturopath. There's a profession there where you can still do health and wellness and weight loss, and there's a lot more money in that. And she's 16, almost 17, and she said, I'm really not interested in money. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I said to her, when you get out of college, are you going to want to have your own apartment? She said, yes. I said, a car? Yes. Are you going to want to continue to buy clothes and go shopping and go on trips? Yes. I said, well, money is what supports all those things. And she looked at me as if I was speaking some very foreign language, and just found it very fascinating because I can watch what's going on within the family, and I can see where a lot of those stories and beliefs are already kind of ingrained in her DNA. Right?
Absolutely true.
Yeah, so I think that, as human beings, we can all just listen and take notice and consciously make a shift in our own behaviors. Why can't people make these money shifts on their own? Why is it that they need help in your experience?
I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that we don't question it. I know I didn't until someone questioned me. And so that's kind of the first piece of it. And it's so normalized to have a complicated relationship with money, or to dislike wealthy people, or to dislike poor people. It's just such a normal thing that we've been indoctrinated into. And so to shift a paradigm takes some disruption, and disruption is very difficult to do on your own. You need a posse, you need some support in order to do that. And so that's why it takes someone else asking you strategic questions to help you think in a level that you probably haven't done before, and also to reveal those blocks that you probably shouldn't know how to get to because they're so, ingrained.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So if someone has a money story that's running them, does their bank account usually match that money story?
It typically does. People who have a lack mindset, well, it can go two different ways. People who can have a lack mindset can have a lot of money, but a huge amount of anxiety around that money. Or they can have nothing because they don't feel comfortable having things, so the lack makes them spend. So yes and no in that answer, in that I see people who have insecure mindsets around money, and it can kind of go either way. So you can totally have a lack mindset and have a ton of money in the bank. You just won't spend it, and you won't ever relax.
Now that just helped me clue into something. So I'll be a little transparent. My husband hopefully won't tune into this episode. My husband and I both grew up very poor. And my family acquired money as I was growing up. And so I went from poverty to just a different experience. It felt like overnight. My husband just grew up poor. And until he and I got married and started to work really, really hard and saved lots of money, really didn't have any money until we created that together. So now for him to spend money on something, it's so difficult. An example is we were in New York the other day, and we go to park in the parking lot, and it's $26 for 5 hours. And he said, oh, we're going to find another lot. And I said, this one's right here. No, that's okay. We drove around for like 25 minutes until we could find a lot that was $4 cheaper. 25 minutes of driving for $4. I'm like, what? And he couldn't break out of that, and he has trouble breaking out of that. So that goes to his money story. What would you say to that story?
The practical answer is, the amount of time that you spent looking for a new lot is not worth the amount of time that, what do you charge for 25 minutes of your time? It's not going to equal that, I can guarantee you. So there's just a practical answer that you're wasting money. And the second piece of that is that let yourself have something, because your internal worth is dictating how you spend your money. You're worthy of that extra amount of money. And so I would really tap into that worth piece and that lack piece to show that it's an incongruency here that you can begin to pick through and shift.
I like your wording. I like the worthiness and also the lack, because I think that's very interesting in what's going on there. It's funny we're talking about this. I thought it was odd that we were driving around to save a few dollars. And, for me, those 25 minutes were just so strange. And it does make me very interested now. I'm curious about what money stories he's still holding on to. And yet, it's also interesting, I'll share this, he's one of the most generous people on the planet. So if you came up to him and you needed money, he would instantly find a way to get you money, raise money, go to help in the soup kitchen. He does these things all the time. But to spend an extra $4 on parking was a very odd thing for him, very, very difficult. Any thoughts about that?
That internal worth piece just keeps coming up for me. And also the behavior, and the thing that's probably made him feel good is that obtaining money and the security and safety that brings. And so having other people secure resources and giving them safety and security is a value. And so there's a value piece for helping other people. And so we need to get that into alignment with him, that he's valuable and that there's worth and that he's totally worthy of those extra dollars for a parking lot. So he doesn't have to be stressed.
So I'm loving this, the safety and security. I hadn't really noticed that. That makes so much sense. I probably have to pay your bill for a therapy session here today. And then I want to ask you another question. Since you have a clinical background, in your words, in your description for a lay person, how do you describe coaching versus therapy, and what does that look like for you?
That's a hard one, and people ask me that a lot. And, coaching really has to do with helping someone obtain a goal, be in a place of motivation. Maybe they're short-term goals, maybe they're longer, but there's very specific guidelines that a coach is usually asking targeted questions. And there's a lot of accountability. And so it's very targeted. Having a clinical background and doing therapy, it's a little bit more meeting the person where they're at, letting things unfold, allowing for space for some healing. And those two things feel a little bit different to me, either in being a therapist or a coach with the energy feels a little bit different to me. But there's healing on both sides that are possible, whether you're coaching someone or whether you're doing therapy with them.
That's a great answer. I think one of the best blends when someone is working on personal issues, just in my personal experience, is to find someone who has a blended background like you have, who can come at it with more tools in their toolkit. I just find that to be such benefit in the world. I really do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if there's a message or two that you want the viewers to really get around money mindset, Give them your best message that you want them to really breathe in and own.
First of all, when we look at these things, there's no judgment. That's the most important thing that I want to stress, is that when we say you have a block, it's not a judgment. When we say there needs to be a mindset shift, it's not a judgment. It is information. And so I think that makes it a little bit easier to look at it when we can take the judgment out of it. So don't judge yourself. Don't be mean to yourself. Don't use this as one more thing to kind of beat yourself up over, because it's just information, and shifting it is a huge value to you. So lean into it. Take some huge uncomfy risks. And this will be hard, but it's okay, because being, an entrepreneur, that's what we do, right? So you need to learn how to do that. And so again, learning what your particular triggers are that might make you want to shy away, or might make you want to give away all your money, whatever that may be, your particular triggers, once you learn them, you can navigate them, negotiate them, and release them. So just stay curious about your journey.
I love that. I love the curiosity. I love how optimistic I feel during the whole time that we've been together. It just feels very uplifting, very optimistic. And I'm going to encourage the viewers to really tap in. What is your little inner voice saying about money? Go to your wallet, look at money, touch money, give some away, see what your money stories are. I just feel so strongly about this when I look at business owners. They are trying to buy everything they can that's sold, that's going to help them with marketing, sales, and business. They purchase every shiny object that they think will be the answer, the magic cure and the pill. And I always say it starts with your inner game. We can go through the outer actions, but until the inner game is there, we're not aligned. And these money stories and this inner game is really, really important. Nicole, thank you. I knew this was going to be phenomenal. You are phenomenal. I'm a huge fan. I stalk you all over social media. I do. I love to hear you speak. I love to hear you on Facebook Live. I really want the viewers to make sure that you get in touch with Nicole and follow her, because I'll tell you, her Facebook Lives are so valuable. They're so educational, and you have such a beautiful delivery. It's clear that what you're doing as your business is coming from a deep desire and passion, and I honor you for that.
Yeah.
And thank you again for being a guest here on Terry TV today.
Thank you so much for having me, Terry.